Luke drifts into another dream. In it, he drinks from the fountain of youth only to watch Charlotte and her son Thomas rapidly age before him. Get ready to relive the adventure as we recap the story of action and fantasy film today. Fountain of Youth, production year 2025. The film begins in Thailand, where Luke was cruising on his motorcycle when Kasim called, but he just let it ring. Next thing he knew, Kasim and his crew had him cornered, demanding that painting he was hauling around, claiming it belongs to their boss. Luke managed to slip away from them and called his buddy Murph to say their meetup was off. They decided Luke would hop on a train to Chiang Mai while Murph waited for him at the airport instead. Once he was on the train, Luke dozed off and had this weird dream about a golden mask. He woke up to find a girl named Esme sitting across from him, telling him he was talking in his sleep. She told him she was trying to recover rare art, basically meaning the painting he had. Luke wasn't about to hand it over, so Esme threatened him, saying her guys would take him out if he didn't cooperate. Luke counters with a threat of his own, saying the monks on the train are his friends and will protect him if Esme tries to harm him. Then she even pulled a knife on him. Luke defended himself, got the painting back, and managed to lock her in the bathroom. Then he climbed up onto the roof of the moving train, jumped off, and called Murph to come get him. The scene shifts to another city where Luke's sister is shown. Charlotte's marriage was falling apart, and the divorce with Harold was turning ugly. He wanted custody of their son Thomas, and that just made everything harder. She walked into the museum where she works, feeling completely worn out, and there was her brother Luke. She hadn't seen him in years. It all came pouring out, the divorce, her son, how lost she felt. Then out of nowhere, he snatched a painting and took off. Now she's in trouble because of the theft, so she runs after him. Alarms are blaring everywhere. Luke tells her he'll give the painting back, but only if she gets in the car with him. She hesitates, then climbs in. He drives fast, then suddenly swerves and hides the car inside a truck. And inside, there are these archaeologists just standing there. Luke is trying to figure things out with his dad's old crew, Murph and Deb. His dad was an archaeologist, so Luke and Charlotte grew up going on all these adventures together. Charlotte decided she wanted a quieter life in the end, but Luke just kept going. He always held on to their father's saying that the journey matters more than what you find. Murph hit a dead end with the stolen painting, and then Luke did something pretty rough. He drugged Charlotte and left her on a bench. When she came to, she went back to the museum and found Inspector Jamal already looking into everything. Jamal asked her where Luke was, and Charlotte told him she'd tell him as soon as she knew. She also mentioned that arresting Luke right now wouldn't do much, since the painting had been returned anyway. Things didn't get any easier for Charlotte after that. She ended up losing her job. Her husband found out, and he used it as a reason to keep their son away from her. It hit her hard, realizing his position in their custody case just got a lot stronger. Charlotte found the address and went to meet him. It was the archaeologist's meeting place, and there was this businessman, Owen. He's a billionaire, but he's also really sick with liver cancer. He told her they're all searching for the Fountain of Youth because he thinks it can save him. Charlotte wasn't buying it. It sounded like a fairy tale to her. But then Luke showed her all this evidence from different cultures and times, all pointing to the same legend. He said the fountain's location has always been hidden from people. There's even a group called the Path Protectors who are still working to keep it secret. That might be why their own father never found it. Luke mentioned that some of the Path Protectors actually wanted to share the fountain with everyone, so they left clues in 6 famous paintings. They've found 5 of them and decoded the clues, but one painting is still missing. It's all a bit hard to take in, honestly. Charlotte informed everyone in the museum that the painting on display was a forgery. She explained that the original piece had been lost years ago and had sunk with a ship. They asked for her help, but she refused. She mentioned that the police were involved and expressed that she couldn't risk a scandal, primarily for the sake of her son. Then a businessman made her an offer. He suggested that if she agreed to help, he would guarantee that she would retain custody of her son. Charlotte accepted the terms, and they set out on a ship bound for the island near the sinking of the ship carrying the painting. Their mission was to raise the ship from the ocean floor. They used large tourist balloons, filling them with air until the wreckage began to rise. Luke and his sister entered the sunken ship to locate the painting. It took considerable effort, but they eventually found the box that contained it. Before they could leave, Esme arrived with her team. Charlotte was confused, unsure of their identities. When Esme's group began the attack, Luke became involved in the conflict. Esme grabbed Charlotte and threatened to kill her, but Luke intervened. He calmly stated that he knew Esme had no intention of killing her. Her only concern was getting the painting. As they are talking, Charlotte seized Esme and threw her aside. The balloons that had been keeping the ship afloat began to burst, one after another, and the vessel started to sink once more. Everyone scrambled, swimming toward another ship to ensure their survival. Charlotte was deeply angered by Luke's decision to prioritize saving the painting over rescuing her from Esme. Sometime later, she received news that her ex-husband had accepted a new position abroad, which meant her son would be returned to her care. The archaeologists had successfully located all of the paintings. They attempted to decipher the symbols within them, hoping it would lead to the Fountain of Youth, but their efforts yielded no tangible results. Charlotte then informed the group that the paintings were approximately 1,600 years old. She explained that the symbols collectively spelled out a specific word, which was the name of a king. According to her, the path to the fountain could be found within his holy book. At that moment, Domhnall and his officers arrived with the intention of arresting Luke. Before any action could be taken, Kasem and his men appeared on the scene and initiated an assault, even targeting the police. Luke subsequently proposed a deal to Kasem, offering him all of the paintings in exchange for the safe release of his companions. After a brief period of negotiation, Kasem consented to the terms. As Luke approached one of the paintings, Domhnall and his forces launched a counterattack, successfully subduing Kasem and his group. This created a window of opportunity, and Luke's team was able to make their escape. After some time, the scene shifts to Luke and his companions aboard an aircraft. Luke drifts into another dream. In it, he drinks from the Fountain of Youth, only to watch Charlotte and her son Thomas rapidly age before him. A sense of profound hopelessness washes over him, and he casts the water aside in despair. The act jolts him awake. He finds Charlotte standing near him, observing quietly. She remarks that he talks quite a bit in his sleep. The team proceeded to Austria, their destination now the location of the Bible. Thomas accompanied them on this particular journey. Access to the library was granted only to Luke, Charlotte, and Deb, who had secured the necessary permissions. Murph maintained a watchful position outside, while Thomas remained with Owen. Within the secured chamber housing the Bible, the librarian informed them of another printing error. The situation shifted when Esme and her associates arrived at the library, effectively sealing the exits. Upon learning of this development, Luke exited the room to confront Esme directly. They fight, but Luke outsmarts her by dropping her from the chandelier with a rope holding her. Back inside the room, Deb sprays something so that the librarian is unconscious. Following this, Deb configured and placed a directional explosive. The detonation provided them with a means of egress into the sewer system below. By nightfall, Locke's team had reviewed the Bible twice. However, no clear answers emerged from the pages. Charlotte decided to review the entire case file again. She began to suspect that the symbols discovered on the tablets might not be the direct clues they had initially assumed. Thomas, with his musical background, viewed the symbols from a different angle. He interpreted them not as a code, but as a piece of music. The piece he deciphered sounded like an ode to the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It was the 7th wonder, the pyramids, that caught their attention. A calm realization settled over the group. They concluded that the legendary Fountain of Youth was likely hidden somewhere within the pyramids. They all boarded the Owens private plane, heading for the pyramids. Luke fell asleep during the flight and found himself dreaming again. In the dream, he took the golden mask. The moment he placed it in his bag, he saw Charlotte aging rapidly before his eyes. He woke with a start. Charlotte was sitting across from him, her expression troubled. She said she didn't trust Owen. She mentioned that he had sent her ex-husband to work in a remote location, despite knowing he was responsible for their son. Luke tried to reassure her. He told her not to worry, explaining that the man simply wanted to save his own life and had substantial financial resources. He suggested they concentrate on the task at hand. Meanwhile, at the Vatican, the elder presented Esme with a trident-like artifact. Its purpose was to prevent anyone from drinking from the Fountain of Youth. The elder's instructions were clear. He told Esme she should not hesitate to use it. Her primary objective was to ensure Luke never reached his destination. At the pyramids, Owen had already coordinated security measures. Inside the ancient structure, Charlotte voiced her opposition to drilling holes to access the hidden chamber. She argued against it. Owen, however, remained firm in his decision to proceed. Owen has deployed a significant number of fighters to prevent any pursuit. His security detail is effective, and they block Jamal's entry into the pyramid. Jamal, left with little recourse, attempts to force his way in. The situation escalates, resulting in the destruction of several police vehicles. Meanwhile, Deb and Murph observe the unfolding events from a distance, weighing their options and considering which side, if any, to assist. Inside, Luke informed the group about the hidden chambers within the pyramid. Charlotte reminded them of their father's experience, how he had discovered a golden mask but chose to leave it undisturbed, and she insisted they follow the same principle. The others concurred. They arrived at the pyramid just as the sun began to rise. Luke located the concealed room. Inside stood a massive drum, immovable despite their efforts. He suggested using explosives to breach it, but Charlotte intervened. She reflected on the ancient Egyptians' engineering prowess, convinced there had to be a simpler, non-destructive method. It was Thomas who then understood the mechanism. He began to play a musical instrument, and slowly the structure responded. Charlotte struck a gong, causing the chamber to tremble. The apparatus opened, revealing what appeared to be a lift. Outside, Esme joined the others. Murph and Deb resolved to assist Jamal and Esme. After dealing with Owen's men, Jamal and Esme formed an alliance. The group came across some strange writing on the walls that didn't seem to make much sense. They ended up at a dead end where someone had carved the tree of life into the stone. A statue of the goddess Nonnet stood nearby, and Charlotte noticed a piece of amber resting on it. She used the amber to somehow open a hidden door in the wall. Once they stepped through, they found themselves standing really high up. Getting down wasn't an option. It was way too far to jump. Luke spotted a kind of knob on the wall and gave it a turn. As soon as he did, stone stairs began to form, one after another, leading downward. Somewhere else, Jamal and Esme made their way into the pyramid and took care of Owen's men. Back with the others, they could now see a small pool of water ahead. It had to be the Fountain of Youth. Charlotte had warned everyone that a curse would fall on anyone who wasn't ready to receive a blessing. Now Owen was showing his true intentions, trying to push Luke forward as a test before he would risk going near the water himself. It turns out Owen never even had liver cancer. When Luke refused to cooperate, Owen shot him in the arm. Luke stumbled into the puddle, and as his blood touched the water, it began to swirl and rise, holding him there. A shimmering golden liquid pooled in his hands, and inside it he saw his own reflection. He was about to drink when he noticed two older figures in the liquid, Charlotte and Thomas, aged and weary. That made him pull back at the last second. Somehow, just stopping himself was enough to heal his wounded arm. But Owen wasn't satisfied. He fired again several times, and each time the water simply closed Luke's wounds, leaving him whole. Owen asked Luke why he wasn't drinking, and Luke just said the water was meant for him. So Owen stepped right into the middle of the puddle, and water started spilling over the edges. That's when Jamal and Esme finally caught up to them. Esme had this instrument with her, and it turned out she needed it right then. I remember the elder had warned us, if the wrong person drank from that water, Esme would have to shut the whole thing down. They said if someone drank from the fountain, it would cost a life, usually someone they loved. But if the person only cared about themselves, the connection went straight to something much bigger. And that power, it didn't show any mercy. Then Owen drank. Almost instantly, lightning began to flicker in the air. Esme didn't wait. She shut the system down right away. Down below, Luke, Charlotte, and Thomas started rushing up toward the top. They left Owen there, and I guess they knew he wasn't going to make it. Things were getting pretty intense there at the end. Luke almost didn't make it, but Esme was right there to pull him back from the edge. After everything settled, he thanked her, and she told him something that stuck with me. She said once you get a taste of that kind of life, it's hard to walk away from it. Meanwhile, Charlotte was talking to Jamal outside, trying to pin the whole theft mess on Owen. I guess she saw an opportunity and took it. Before Esme left, she gave Luke a quick kiss on the cheek and told him not to make her come after him. It felt like a warning and a promise all at once. When Luke brought up Charlotte working with them, she seemed totally into the idea of more adventures. The movie wrapped up with Luke asking if she had any plans, but Thomas cut in saying he had an idea. It makes you think Thomas is going to be part of the team now too. And showing this story ends here. Appreciate a follow for more, and please remember to like. Thanks for watching.